Hey guys, what's up? Chris Lee, aka Tony Singer, songwriter, producer, professional audio engineer, owner of United Destiny Entertainment. So check this out. I'm gonna really try to keep this video short. I'm gonna try to talk fast. I'm not really feeling too good, but just a long excuse me guys. Just a long story short. What I'm gonna talk to you guys about today is just a limiter. Um, a lot of you guys are wondering why your beats aren't as punchy and as loud as you would like them to be, or you wonder why when you're mixing your beat and you try to bounce down a Pro Tools or Logic or any recording DAW, your track isn't as punchy and doesn't have the dynamics that you thought it would. All right, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why. The reason why is this limiter. When you open up FL Studios, 9 times out of 10 on a master track, it go ahead and put the limiter on your master track. Now, a lot of you don't even know what the limiter is. You don't know what the limiter does. So to you, you just leave it there. It's not really a big deal. All right. So to try to dumb this down and make it a long story short, the limiter basically takes it almost works almost the same as a compressor, but just a little bit different. It takes a lot of your highs in your track, a lot of the peaks, the highest peaks, and it takes a lot of the lowest peaks, and it tries to balance that out. But it also tries to bring every one of your tracks, or your track in general, to maximum limitation, and it sets a threshold point, a ceiling point to saying, hey, max this track's dynamics out, but don't let it go past 0. I don't want it to peak. I don't want it to distort. So that's what the limiter does. It stops your track from going over a certain limit. 0 is usually the maximum limit, obviously, inside of anything digital. Anything usually over that, you're going to be over 0. You're going to be distorted or clipping. So with that being said, it's really to control and try to give that track, try to balance everything in that track out and make it a little more even and balanced with each other. But it's just more like to where it's not making certain instruments, it's not allowing certain instruments to jump out over the next instrument and other instruments to be too low. It kind of balances everything out, which is a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that. They use it in mastering all the time. The limiter is the last phase in the chain, your signal chain, and that's what you want to be able to bring your track up to industry standard. Now, with that being said, in this case in FL Studio, I'm going to be bouncing the beat that I made in FL Studio into Pro Tools so I can do more mixing and add more plugins to it. So I want to make things sound bigger, and I want to make things have more clarity, and I want to make things sound more present. And I want to do that inside of Pro Tools. Can I do it in FL Studio? Technically, yes, but I'm more effective in Pro Tools because I have more options to do what I want to do. Basically, with FL Studio, there's a lot of producers out there who mix their full entire beat inside of FL Studios, and that's that. That's fine. So with that being said, in this situation currently right now, I do not want my limiter on my tracks because I don't want to bounce into Pro Tools with my tracks already maxed out, dynamic range wise, level wise, industry loudness wise. You don't want that because if I do that and bounce it into Pro Tools, everything is going to be peaking at 0. If everything's peaking at 0, I left myself no headroom, which means I can't add any extra compressors or do any extra EQing or any extra limiting or anything that's going to bring the level up. My goal is to get a nice mix in FL Studio and bounce into any recording DAW that I use and take the nice balanced level that I have from what I bounced in FL Studio into Pro Tools, and I want to be able to bring it up and make it louder, make it more clear, make it more present, make it more punchy, make it more dynamic. The only way I can accomplish that is with headroom. So putting a limiter on your master track and then bouncing down to Pro Tools or any recording DAW that you use prevents all that. It destroys any way of doing that because everything will already be maxed out. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is a little simple beat that I made and I want to show you guys what I'm doing. So check it out. Okay, so to me, right off the bat, that sounds like crap. And the reason why is because the track is losing, because of the limiter, it's losing a lot of dynamics. Now, like I said, when you open up FL Studios, it automatically slaps on a limiter on your master track. You don't want that. So from now, whenever you open it up, unless you're going to be mixing inside of FL Studio, but even then, you don't necessarily want to start off with the limiter. Some people do it, some people don't. I don't recommend it. Why? Because you don't know how dynamic you're going to want the rest of the track. I recommend you getting a nice, clean, good balance with everything, and then allowing the limiter to bring everything up and adjusting a few things afterwards. That's what I recommend. But in this situation, like I said, the limiter is taking all of my dynamics out the track, and I don't want that. The snare is not punchy. My kick is not punchy. You can hear the sub kick, but that's not what I'm looking for. So check it out. I'm going to play it with the limiter, and I'm going to let you hear, use your ears. I'm going to let you hear the punchiness of the kick and the snare when I take the limiter off. So check it out. This is with it on. With it off. Much more punchy with it on. My snare is gone. With it off. So there you have it. You can see why it's not a great idea to bounce your tracks down, track outs, to be able to mix in another program. You can see why it's not a good idea, because you're simply not allowing yourself to mix on top of what you're already doing in FL Studio. Plus, you're not leaving yourself any headroom. That's not what you want to do in any situation. It's like recording this out of Pro Tools, Logic, your DAW, or even FL Studios, and putting a limiter on a master track before you send it off to get mastered. The reason why that's a bad idea, obviously, because when you send it off to get mastered, the mastering engineer is going to bring the dynamics up anyways. He's going to bring it up to the loudest point, and he's going to handle the limiter and really making the track industry standard. So if you leave the limiter on any track like that, you don't allow the mastering engineer any headroom. So therefore, there's not going to be much he can do with the track. Now, any real experienced mastering engineer obviously, he's not going to destroy your track and make it distorted. But that's what's going to happen when you send it to a mastering engineer and you want him to push the track to the limit. He's just going to make the track more distorted simply because there's no headroom. He has nothing to work with. He can't really add any extra compression or any extra dynamics to really bring the track out or the clarity out without it peaking or distorting. So don't do that. You send it to any mastering engineer around -6 dB is what I recommend. But if you hit somewhere around -3, then that's fine as well. But you need to make sure that you leave him some headroom. Another thing that goes for the producers out there. There have been a lot of you producers out there, and I mean a lot of you producers out there who have been getting your beats mastered before you send it off or you sell it to these clients. Let me tell you the problem in that. A lot of you might not think it's a problem, but I think it's a big problem. Why? The reason why is because 9 times out of 10, when you get that beat mastered and you sell that beat to a client to rap over, sing over, or whatever, once that client get that beat, one problem is once he imports it inside of Pro Tools or FL Studio or Logic or any recording program, he's having to cut the beat down like -15. -15. Is that a problem? Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why it's a problem. Because if the track is already that dynamic and it's already peaking out to its loudest point, then how do you expect a mixing engineer to to mix vocals within that loud beat properly and then send that track off to get mastered. The problem that I talked to you about a couple minutes ago that you're going to run into is when a mastering engineer tries to master that track that mix engineer that mixed, he's basically going to be putting a master, slapping a master on top of another master. Why? Because the beat was already mastered, which means he's not going to be able to get any dynamic range without distorting out of that track, especially the instrument portion of the beat, because of the simple fact that you already had it mastered. So with that being said, what I recommend you guys do is to mix your beats at a nice, proper, loud level. There's a way of getting loudness out of a track before mastering. There is a way. I do it with my mixes all the time. That's what make me the engineer that I am today. I know how to achieve this. I'm very good at it. I wanted to be able to find out how to get nice big sound before the mastering stage. So when I do send it off to get mastered, the mastering engineer, or if I master it myself in the box master, I'm able to get more dynamic range and another level of loudness out of it without it being distorted, and it still sounds good. That's what you guys need to focus on. So I recommend that you producers stop having your beats mastered before you send it off to these clients. A lot of you don't know, and you use this term a lot. A lot of you don't know the difference between mixing and mastering, and you need to educate yourself, because mixing and mastering are two totally different things. The concept might seem a little bit close to being similar, but it's actually not. I mean, it's totally different. And I notice a lot of you use that term a lot. Even people, a lot of you guys who aren't pros in general, you say, what do I need to do? You hit me up and you say, what do I need to do to mix and master my track in Pro Tools? Or you send me a really crappy song, or a song that don't sound that good, and you tell me that you mixed and mastered it. And I'm like, well, the industry standard level, that track comes nowhere close. I mean, some of you guys, this track, I damn near have to crank all the way up just to even be able to hear the track. It's loudness in general. So that's not a good sign. The second thing is, a lot of you guys are amateur mixers, or you just, trying to gain some experience and you haven't got the good yet. And that's okay. But what I recommend is, if you're a producer or if you're a rap artist, a singer, or whatever, to send your material off to an engineer who knows what they're doing, and let them send it off to a mastering engineer who knows what they're doing. There are some combo guys out there. There are mix/combo mastering guys out there who know how to do both. Me, I do both. I mix, I engineer, I clean tracks up, balance, reverbs, EQs, echoes, do the whole balance. I mean, just the whole 9 yards. Then I turn around and do in the box mastering. I have years of experience with it. I know how to achieve this. Would I put myself on the same level as a 20-year mastering engineer? No, because there's some guys out there who've been doing it for 20 years just strictly as a mastering engineer. That's okay. That's not what I'm taking away from you guys. I just want you guys to be able to perform these tasks and tactics, whether you're amateur or professional, somewhere in between, whatever that may be. You need to know the proper steps and the proper procedures to be able to get a great mix. So for me personally, when I bounce this track down into Pro Tools, Logic, or whatever, I'm not going to have the limiter on there, because I'm going to drop it in Pro Tools, add more EQs, dynamics, mix on top of a great mix, and then I'm going to be able to go into the point where I can get the most loudness out of it, and then put it up for sale. Either put it up for sale or record my own material to it. When I record my own material to it, then I'm able then to be able to balance all the vocals with the instruments together, bounce it down to where it's hitting like -6 dB, open it up in a new session, and turn around and in the box master it. Or I can turn around and send it to another mastering engineer to be able to do that for me. So I hope this video helped you guys out. I know I touched on a lot of different things, but I just want you guys to understand the importance that you don't want to bounce your tracks down with any kind of limiter if you're going to turn around and mix it in another DAW. But if you're going to mix it inside of FL Studio, it's okay to leave the limiter on there, but I wouldn't recommend you necessarily having a limiter on there before you start adding your EQs, compressors, and all that other stuff. Some people have done it. I've heard some people who said they've done it and their mixes aren't too bad. But do I recommend it? No, because you don't really know how dynamic you want everything to sound. You don't know how punchy you want the snare. You don't know how punchy you want the kick. And with the limiter on there, that's not going to give you an accurate sound. It's just going to give you an accurate sound with everything meshed together or under that limiter that's being limited together. If you want something, then you can adjust it. So what I recommend is you mix it first, turn around and put a limiter on there, and then go back to start adjusting whatever you want to adjust. I don't recommend a limiter first because, like I said, everything will be automatically limited. You could mix into a limiter. I've heard somebody do that. I don't do that personally, and it works great for me. So like I said, don't bounce the tracks down with the limiter on there into FL Studio because you won't, Pro Tools, because you won't have any dynamic range. If you mix inside of FL Studio, don't add the limiter to after you start adding your effects, EQs, compressors, reverbs, and start balancing the track out from there. So I really hope this video helped you guys out. I really hope you guys understood what I was saying. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, and check out my other material. Thanks for watching. Chris Lee, a.k.a. Toonie.